How's it going, everyone? My name's Smeasel, and this is the Isles Update 5 Devblog analysis. Some of you watching this might already know me from the Isle community, so hello and much love to all of you. And if you're new, I want to thank you for coming by and giving an especially warm welcome to the channel. This video format's new to me. In fact, I've never released a full-length edited video before, so any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And shout out to our editor, Bukka. He's also a really good content creator, and I recommend checking him out. Most of my content prior to this has been streaming the Isle and other games on Twitch under the same handle for the last year and a half. Like many of you, I've been with this community since near the very beginning, having hopped into the game in June of 2016. Some of you might consider me an Isle veteran, and I'm totally not just giving myself that title. Anyways, I love all the other Isle news channels, but something I miss is narrated content that I can listen to keep me up to date on Isle news. So I hope this video provides that for you. Enough of the introductions. I'm going to be going through the Isle Devblog, scrolling as we go, and providing feedback on points that I think are going to be highly impactful for the gameplay experience. I'll do my best not to ramble on for too long. Along the way, we'll also go through the different images and videos provided by the developers within the blog post. Let's get to it. This first part's provided by the lead programmer, Filipe. It reads, "This month I was partially working on the latest improvements for Update 5. Which we released on the 7th of July with subsequent hotfixes and server performance tests. Meanwhile, we held a significant number of Gore design meetings which have already yielded favorable results, showcasing that we have a good and solid plan to move forward with. Some core work for the Update 6 has started a little earlier, but we can now start focusing solely on that. In other news, UA has received the first iteration of night vision, with feedback and adjustments already made. There are still a few technical adjustments to be made, not bugs, before we are able to release it into your hands. Back on to Update 6. I don't have much that I'm able to share just yet, as the majority of it is code work. In short, we have big changes coming to the diet system, which is in the process of being expanded upon. With slot combinations, new negative-positive effects, the new migration system, adaptive diet list, and more. Besides, of course, the bloody gore with organs, a lot of blood, new mechanics specific for gore, and new corpse interactions, which will include changes to how scent works based on how old a corpse is, for example, or if it became a carcass or even rotten. Due to performance also being a constant concern, expect changes from what you will see until the end. Everything is heavily work in progress. Here is a small example video to showcase some of what we've been working on. Please keep in mind that everything you see in this video is subject to change. The second portion is from our other programmer, DM4. As we're nearing the release of Update 5, I was making smaller changes and bug fixes, while being careful not to break anything in the last second. These included some improvements to walking in mud, footprint scent, schooling fish ripples, and foliage collision issues related to a plugin we're using. Before the update came out, I spent some time playing with our stress testers to get some normal player perspective on the game. I really enjoyed having parents to look after me, bring me food and all that. Unfortunately, my parents didn't usually survive until I entered adulthood, but it was a fun experience nonetheless. I hope you're also enjoying the update and taking good care of your children. After that, I moved on to something that I'm sure many of you will find exciting, the Bapiosaurus. There are several new mechanics and movement changes for this dinosaur, so I had a lot to do. This creature is very buoyant, so swimming downwards will be a bit difficult. You can ascend very quickly, which is especially useful when you are running out of air. It can also use its claws to latch to the ground underwater, which leads us to the next feature, foraging. In this state, you'll be able to detect animals living underground in the water. Find them, and if you're lucky enough, you can dig up some free food. We still have quite a bit of work to do in both art and programming, but we'll be able to start testing soon. Here's some images of the Bapiosaurus that they shared with us. This first one appears to be diving off of a rock, which is hinted at in the other Phase 2 post by Dondi. Here we see it diving downward, so it's probably slowly diving downward towards the bottom, because they said that that would be difficult to do. Here we can see the latching animation with using its claws to hold on to the base of the floor. We can imagine it to be digging with those same claws to dig up the food. And here we can see it in what is probably its neutral state in the water, which is floating at the surface. This third portion is by our final programmer, Amarok. Most of my month was spent working on the new NetDriver integration with Epic Online Services. This was required for a variety of reasons, specifically easy anti-cheat. More recently, however, I have been able to shift focus from back-end services and devote my attention to upgrading the capabilities of our AI, to which I have been adding the Pterodactylus, a new type of scavenger, and getting the Carnotaurs back into the fray. Fish schools have also had a few changes, which include fish that now leap out of the water and leave small splashes. Unfortunately, this means the end of the flying fish bug. I know how much everyone loves them. Sorry. Are you? Some improvements to dinosaur AI have included the ability for them to seek out food and water, as well as randomize their skins. I have been exploring options for how AI spawning should change to better accommodate the diet system for lower population servers. This means you should always be able to find your perfect diet. I have also improved the rabbit burrowing and ambient animal interaction, which will be worked on more over the next month. So hopefully that means that stuff like pigs and deer and rabbits will run away more consistently, and even better than they already currently are. Some of you would have seen my recent streams, which I just wanted to say I really enjoyed doing, so thanks everyone for the support, and I appreciate all the comments and questions that come in. This fourth portion is from our video editor, Seiza. The update release this month was also exciting for me, because it also meant the release of what I've been working on for the last weeks and months, the trailer creation. As there were, again, many mechanics that should have been explained in it, this trailer is the longest so far. Another reason for the unusual length is that it was supposed to be calm and relaxed. After all, it might be the last chance to present such an atmospheric trailer. So let's enjoy every second of peaceful scenes before the world gets darker. To illustrate the interaction of the different mechanics, my goal was to present each mechanic chronologically, first the skin system, then courting, nesting, hatching, and so on. To avoid it becoming boring, however, I have chosen a different species for each mechanic, with smooth transitions between each. The last scene with the Carnotaurus attack and the hatchling Carnotaurus just seems like a cinematic nice to have, but actually it has several functions. It closes the parentheses and opens the chance to show the actual possible in-game impact of the skin system. In addition, it demonstrates the ecological cycle that new nesting mechanics brings. By the way, I read through a lot of the feedback from you guys, and I'm very happy how many of you liked the depiction of Carnotaurus in this trailer. After the release of the trailer, I immediately started my next project. It's in a new format that many of you have been asking for. Here we see there's sort of a cryptic and mysterious picture here shown for us. It reads reproduction behavior LOA, and we presume it's going to say loading. This fifth portion is a short bit from our sound designer Wedge. This month has mostly consisted of more work on our Troodon sounds, with the majority of its sounds created and added to the engine, ready for me to spend time playtesting to make sure it sounds fleshed out and balanced. Troodon now only lacks a few sounds for its adult stage, which, once complete, will have me moving on to create a juvenile variant for each sound. I've also been working on creating some chorus sounds for groups of Pterodactylus in various group sizes and for different gameplay reasons. Here, we get to preview another one of the concept arts released by Tapwing, which we saw in an earlier Phase 2 post, showing the Therizinosaurus, exhibiting all the uses for its claws, both miscellaneous uses in cutting out foliage, as well as using its tail to cover up its young, using its claws to skewer small predators or nuisances, ripping some prey in half, which might be utilizing the Gore system we're going to see in the future, and shredding apart an Allosaurus with its claws, probably inflicting a bunch of bleed damage. We can also see here they said that the tail would be mitigating attack damage, and the Giganotosaurus is seen biting out a piece of the feathers. I don't know if we'll actually see feathers being torn off in the game, but it'll probably have a damage debuff when attacking the tail. And that also goes for the young and hiding it within the tail, which they allude to here in the next few portions. Despite the updated appearance and adding extra floof, we very much wanted to keep Therizinosaur's murder turkey reputation. One of the main goals was to see how many different ways we could use the Theris claws, outside of just grabbing tree branches, cutting obstructive foliage, raking large predators, impaling small ones, and exploring the potential for mutilation. Another aspect I'd like to see if we can implement is utilizing our Theris' famously fluffy tail as a defensive feature, absorbing a set amount of damage from tail attacks, giving Theri another shot at escaping predators trying to chase it down, or offering some protection to its hatchlings from smaller creatures looking to steal one away as an easy snack. So here is though as if the devs are trying to spoil us a little bit here, because this next concept art piece that we're shared from Tapwing is something that would normally be relegated to a Phase 2 post. It would be a bit of information, one piece of information that we'd receive for a week, but they decided to include it here in this dev blog, which I appreciate. It includes pictures and depictions of T-Rex that'll be added to the game in the future, which I know has become a bit of a meme, but I think a lot of us have been interested to know exactly how all of these mechanics are going to be working with the T-Rex and the kinds of things it's going to be doing. We can see here crushing prey with its jaws. It explains here in the next few blurbs that the T-Rex's jaw power is nothing to be reckoned with. Definitely apparent with you can see it crushing a Parasaurolophus's spine, as well as the neck of an Allosaur, which is definitely going to survive. We can also see it thwacking through a giant gate here, a metal gate, and using a sort of head swing attack that they explained in the later blurbs that would be used to crash through human structures. And chasing some Utah raptors, which are standing by and typing in chat to say that there's a Rex chasing them before getting mauled alive. We can also see a Baryonyx, it appears, getting thrown around and thrashed by a T-Rex, which is obviously physically superior, thrashing this Baryonyx and showing that it is in fact the better dinosaur. Here we can see the T-Rex whacking its head against this other dinosaur. It looks like a relative of Acro. I can't remember quite what the name of it is. It's kind of forgettable, honestly. I'm really excited for this feature of the Rex using its head, because as we know, the Rex's skull is just a large block of bone, heavy at that, and it would make sense that it would use it as a sort of battering ram to knock prey down before ultimately grabbing it with its jaws and crushing it and killing it instantly. So they say here it's going to be using a side-striking headed swing, as we can see here that it's displaying in the pictures, and I'd assume this is going to be something like either its alt attack. I think that would make a lot of sense. It's an attack that you would lead with, knocking the prey, staggering them, and then going in after creating an opening and getting a bite. And finally, here it is, our first post from our God and Savior, Jace, the level designer. After a little over a year of being on the team, this is actually my first devblog entry. And funny enough, it's not even about level design. I'm here to talk about the design of the new night vision. Night vision is actually one of the first things I took a crack at when I joined the team, working on it when I had the time. The night vision coming to Evrima is quite different to the night vision of the past. In the past, the night vision had a large visual impact on your play experience, or under certain lighting it was actually best using flipping it off and on, or just off entirely because you could either see better without it. The new night vision system was designed with the intent of being able to leave it on at all times if you wanted to. I think this part's really interesting. I'd like to see what they mean by leaving it on at all times, because I think that implies it has to be adaptive and it has to be changing with the daytime that we see, because if you left it on at all times, I feel like it would look bad. But I think we'll get more details in further parts that'll explain why this actually makes sense. He continues. Meaning that it could negatively hinder your vision or detract from the look of the game, but has to allow players to see in the dark. To achieve these goals were a few hurdles to get over, like designing it in a way to not modify any of the colors or values on the screen so that you could retain full color vision and contrast. But how could I improve your vision in the dark if I couldn't make it any brighter? Outlines. Inspired by ENVGB, a newer night vision technology showed off by the US military, in-game, this effect is done in a purely additive way to the scene, where it will draw outlines around the edges of objects that exceed a certain distance from the object behind it. Then the intensity of those lines get masked to only the areas of the scene that are dark enough for the outlines to prove beneficial to your vision. Then, with a few extra details like fading it out around the edge of your screen, and you get night vision that achieves these goals. This new system provides night vision that both retains all of the color of the scene and allows you to see in the dark. It will also dynamically change and adjust itself to fit the needs of what you're currently looking at. Yeah, we see here he mentions it will dynamically change, meaning that throughout the time of day when the light changes in the surrounding light, we can assume that this sort of effect will adapt. And the way that he's describing it with giving things a stronger outline, it's almost like it's increasing the contrast to make it easier for you to make out objects, even if you can't clearly see the definition of such object. Here, the devs decide to spoil us again with more things that would probably be relegated to just a phase 2 post. We have Jake, the 3D artist. I'm finally making creatures again. Short-lived, as I will be back on miscellaneous environment assets and other goodies in the near future, but for now, I got to wrap up the technical work needed to make Osteraptor game ready, as well as wrap up the baryonyx finally. Osteraptor just needed a nice red apology. For feathered animals, this can be a bit of a hassle, as we need to account for the alpha cards, but thankfully, Osteraptor wasn't too bad on this front, fewer than the Therizinosaurus. This is the first look at the Osteraptor model, which we've not seen anywhere else, and this is where I'm saying this is something they normally relegate to a phase 2 post, so it feels really nice that we're getting so much information included with this devblog. I'm also really biased with this design. I think it's fantastic. I know the snout's a little bit longer than it's supposed to be in life, but I just love this design so much. I think it works, it's cohesive, and it looks like a lot of fun to play, if I'm going to be honest. Here we see Jake talking about his work on the baryonyx. He says, Baryonyx was next up to get a facelift, accommodating new ideas for how the creature will work in gameplay, as well as bringing it into the aesthetic of the newer dinosaur assets. I hope you guys like how it turned out. Moving on, we have our last post from the producer of the game, KissenKitten. As mentioned above, we're rounding out some changes for night vision so we can get that into your hands. We hope you like the new functionality and that it provides us many tense moments as the legacy version did. So be expecting that to appear. Now let's talk Gore. The way Gore is planned to function is to introduce horror elements into the game in a natural way. Nature can be incredibly cruel by human standards, and we do not plan to shy away from that fact. The Isle has always been declared a survival horror game, yes, finally, and we plan to show you how and exactly why. Things are about to get uncomfortable very fast, thank God, as we intend to emulate the ferocity and despair inherent in the wild. Thank goodness. Some of the inhabitants of the island will have the ability to mutilate other animals in various ways, resulting in death. We want to capture the raw and unsettling experience of predation and combat amongst animals so you feel more urgency when it comes to self-preservation. Not only will you be able to see the flesh being removed from your body, Jesus Christ, thank goodness, but in certain circumstances, you may even be eaten alive as this happens. Exercise caution. Can't fucking wait. A dead body will go through different phases depending on varying circumstances. Fresh, eaten, rotten, bones, etc. A fresh body that's been eaten and a rotting body that hasn't been eaten will not only look visually different, but they will function differently as well. Most fresh kills impact carnivores positively, but rotting flesh may be too septic for some carnivores to eat, or for some animals to even be around. Further still, bones would be the only consumed by a select few. Gore ties in with diets and will come with scent changes. Fresh meat won't have the same odorous profile as rotting flesh, but you can still be tracked by other animals. Dragging bodies to more covered locations will become useful for reducing the amount of scent a body gives off, and the time it takes for it to give off, which will provide you with a little bit more time to eat before your kill is inevitably discovered by other animals. There may be changes to which creatures can smell what, and what ranges they can smell them at, and with what impact. If you make a kill or find one, get it to cover and eat it as fast as you can before it is found or before the other body becomes unpalatable. Time will be of the essence, as a kill will not go unnoticed for long. Compies and pterodactylists will rat you out, attracting other predators. The freshness of a body will matter, as well as the contents of that body. If you're playing as a creature that doesn't favor certain organs, you may need to remove them to avoid snacking on something that may harm you. Some carnivores may get greater gains from eating certain organs, others may not. This can help to expand the usefulness of the dead on the island, as a single corpse can provide food for a myriad of different creatures at different stages of decomposition. Stepping into work on the playables, Troodon will be entering testing to make sure its venom isn't too strong or too weak and that it feels fluid. The venom does not currently rely on application alone or dosage alone. It is not a set and forget it venom. It's based on exposure. The longer the venom is in the bloodstream, the worse the effects become, building to a crescendo that would allow a murder of Troodon to quickly drop the health of a larger prey. But coordination is key for specifically bringing down larger animals, as they only produce so much venom individually. However, a solo Troodon is more than capable of killing creatures within its own size range, but together is where their real power lies. For the Horde. I think for fear of making this a novel, I'll stop here. Check out this Osteraptor. And here we show another picture of Osteraptor with its texture included. And I gotta say, I love this pattern. I love the look of the sort of leathery skin on the face. Even though the anatomy, the sort of proportions of the Ostro may not be as they were in life, this is very true to how the integument of a raptor would be with its skin and feathers. It's not far from the truth, I'm gonna be honest. And I truly like this pattern. Looks like a wiry, wily little creature, and I want to fuck people up with this thing. It looks so much fun. I honestly can't wait. All right, now that we finished going through the devblog and reading it and just seeing what it says, taking in all that information, I want to do a quick review, going back and looking at specific points that the devs brought up and just kind of giving my feedback on why I think that these are a big deal. I just want to read through this part that Filipe shared with us a little bit more slowly, because I feel like he included some mechanics and features that have not really been discussed in the past or even really confirmed. So a few things he said. He mentioned the migration system, which has been mentioned previously. We still don't know a lot how that's going to work. I'm very excited for this because I think that anything that gets more movement around the map is good. Good for the game, good for the health of a server and the sort of ecosystem in a sense. I know that the ecosystem is kind of a meme at this point within the community, but in this instance, I think it's an apt understanding of how these are going to work. And I think that, you know, some issues people have with like finding other players, this is just going to help mitigate that and make that whole experience so much better. Another thing he mentions is the adaptive diet list, which is something that I don't believe has been confirmed outright, but has been discussed, rumored, requested by the community to have an adaptive diet list of something like T-Rex, for example. The way T-Rex grows is that each stage is much different from the next. So the beginning stage, the juvie stage, is a lot quicker and more agile. The middle stage is more like you would expect your normal mid-tier. It's kind of average. And its final stage of growth, when it reaches its full size, is something of a more bulky and not quite a pursuit predator. It can definitely pursue things, but it's more of an endurance predator, not utilizing speed as much. So with something like Rex, because of the way that its anatomy and its playstyle is going to change as it grows, is that would hope and expect that its diet's going to change as well. So its list will be different. And because its list of things that it needs is different, that means that the juveniles and the adults might not be competing as much. Hopefully with something like Rex, for example, too, maybe we'll see something where the juvenile does not have cannibalism on its list, but the adult does. So the adult is actually going to want to seek out other smaller tyrannosaurs, eat them, and it gets a benefit of some kind from that, whether it be from the diet system or from the perk system. I'm looking forward to that. Another thing he slips in there is the term slot combinations, which is not something we've heard explicitly mentioned before, I don't believe. If it has somewhere, I missed it. This phrasing, slot combinations, is interesting to me. I'm not sure what he exactly means by that. If it means creatures for a specific nutrient, like the S nutrient, for example, having multiple creatures on it, or for herbivores, giving them more options for their diet system, or maybe even some creatures getting multiple nutrients from a single prey item, which is something I've been hoping for as well. I also wanted to touch upon really briefly something that DM4 shared with us, which is this image of the Bapiosaurus diving. This is also featured, as I said earlier, in a phase 2 post by Dondi, in which he made it into a meme. But this is really interesting, and this sort of movement mechanic is not something we've seen in the game yet. I am very interested to see how that works. If it's going to be something like Ezio Auditore and Assassin's Creed, walking up to a ledge and then you just sort of press a button and it jumps in the water. If it's like some sort of check that the creature does where if it can jump down in the water straight in, it's going to jump in the water. Also, the fact that it's up on that ledge, I'm wondering, is it jumping up on that ledge from the ground? Or is Bapi going to have some sort of feature where it can swim very quickly out of the water up into the air to take advantage of height? Think of like a penguin in the Arctic. When they are exiting the water, they can shoot out of the water very quickly and get up on a ledge that otherwise they might not be able to reach if they weren't reaching such speeds. We'll have to see more about that in the future. This part with Amarok, and I know Amarok is a very controversial and divisive figure within the community as far as his contributions to the game. I think that the endeavor of putting AI into the game is a noble one. I think it's important. It definitely does need to be in the game. Whether it should be a priority, I'm not so sure. And we've also seen a bunch of really problematic implementations of AI which, as we've seen back in something like Legacy, if you have an AI implementation, which, you know, they're basically just spawning there and they're there for food and they don't really run away that well, you're spoon feeding the player and giving them free food in what is otherwise supposed to be a survival horror game. I guess it's not really technically a hardcore survival game, but I don't really personally like the idea of AI being there and giving food that is easy to catch. I like the AI being there, but it has to work consistently, and it can't just be a free meal. It has to be something that a player has to work for. I know Amarok recognizes that. You shouldn't harass him for that. It's something he's obviously working on, and we should definitely support him in doing that. Also, Amarok's a lovely guy. How can you be mean to this man? He's a sweet man. Look at his little son on stream. He's a sweet man. Sweet man. Don't be mean to him. Stop it. Anyways, he's thinking about bringing back, it looks like, he's talking a lot about Carnotaurus being brought back as AI. Do I have an issue with that intrinsically? No. I just need it to be in a state where it's not overwhelming, overbearing in a sense, where it really feels like it's just a flawless computer that's chasing you down, unlike a player where you can outsmart them. That needs to be possible with AI. So I'm not against it if that is the case. If it's going to be like the AI Carnos we had previously, where they just, you know, are a heat-seeking missile, I'm not a big fan of that, I'm going to be honest. But from the stream he was showing us, there was some weird movement going on where the Carno was not quite making a robotic turn. It seemed a lot more organic, so I'm optimistic about this. I believe in Amarok to get it done. We're just going to have to see in the future. And keep up the good work, Amarok, seriously. It also should be mentioned that Amarok has also said they're going to be seeking out food and water. They've never done that before, so that's exciting. I'm also excited for them to exhibit some more natural behaviors instead of them just sort of pacing back and forth like you would expect to see in like something like World of Warcraft or other RPGs, where enemies are just on this like very linear track. It seems like it feels not organic and immersive at all. I don't have much more to say on the night vision design that Jace was mentioning earlier. It's definitely unexpected. I don't think any of us really saw this solution coming or hinted to in any way. So I'm very curious to see what this looks like, because just the explanation of it, I think, does not do it justice, and it's not easy to visualize. I think a lot of us are going to need to see this in person to really make up our minds about it. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to look really cool. How is it going to look cool? I have no idea, because it's hard to really get what he's saying, I'm gonna be honest. But maybe it's just not an easy thing to explain, so you gotta think about that too. But yeah, thank you, Jace, for this contribution. We're all looking forward to this, especially me. So I said that this is a juicy devblog, and when I say that, I mean it. Kissen gave us so much information here that's helpful and beneficial in understanding the way this game's gonna work, the way she mentioned the way Gore is gonna work, which we've not gotten a lot of information on outside of that video that was posted earlier on in this devblog. She goes into really good detail about how this is going to interact with the player base and how other players are going to be seeking this out with their different species, and how the different species are going to work in regards to Gore. I think that this sort of dynamism within the diet system and the way that we're going to be able to scavenge for once, whereas previously, and how it is nowadays so far, is that when you kill something, it's something like a compy spawns, feels very ephemeral. You take so much food from a Gore. They're trying to balance it right now. You take so much food, they don't want people to, they don't want there to be an overabundance of food, and I get that. I guess that makes sense because they don't really have a way to decompose it in a good, consistent way. So they're trying to come up with the best fix they can. So I understand that. I think we should all be really excited about this new system, and I think that it's going to bring a whole new level of play to the game. Reminiscent of those legacy days when you could reliably find more bodies to scavenge off of. I feel like with the Gore, they would leave the Gore and the Gore would go bad. And also some carnivores, depending on their size, couldn't even eat from specific Gores. So you would have something like a T-Rex that would kill like a small Maiasaur or Diablo, for example, And depending on that creature's size, it might leave a small Gore that T-Rex couldn't even finish. And that Gore was going to be left there for other creatures to find later on. And that Gore would stay there for quite a while. And it would also give you information of time and how long ago that thing was killed. So you know if there's other things nearby. So while you get a meal, you also might be kind of wary that something had just killed that other creature. We also see that she mentions that Gore will be rotting and that some creatures won't be able to eat certain things that are too septic or too rotten. So we imagine things like Serato are going to be eating rotten meat as well as bones. Maybe not. Maybe they've gone back on that and changed it around. We don't really know for sure if Serato is just going to be rotten meat or just bones, etc. We'll have to see for the future. This also might point to the fact that after a certain amount of time when the body's gotten rotten, that herbivores cannot be within the vicinity of it. So that would be ultimately kind of a way to deter creatures from bodyguarding, for example. It'd be a more organic way to prevent that, other than having something like a ruled system in a server that says, hey, you can't do this. The game itself is telling you you can't, and it's preventing you from doing it, and you're going to be punished if you do. I think that's a great way to go about it, and it's kind of the philosophy of Evrima in general, and I appreciate that. We also see differences and changes with scent that will be coming in the future for different species, saying that there's going to be different scent ranges. So we might see something like Rex having a really good sniffer. It'll be able to smell things from very far away. Same with Serato, maybe specializing in sensing rotten Gores from very far away. That could be neat. Also saying that this is unexpected and hasn't been talked about, but saying that you should bring your food to cover to bring it somewhere that's harder for something to smell it. If that's, I don't know if she means that that's going to be a visual thing where the scent smoke or whatever flies up in the air like a scent signal or some kind, or if the foliage itself is suppressing the ability for creatures to smell it from nearby. That could be very interesting, and it actually creates a reason to drag your food somewhere. Whereas now it's really, you're only doing it if if you're near water, you're trying to get it away from water so a dino doesn't take it from you. That's the only reason I can really think of that would carry away your bodies right now. Otherwise, there's not much of a reason to. Gosh, we get so much information here. It really just does not stop coming. She is hitting all of the points I think people have been wondering about leading up to these updates coming up soon. So I love this as a player that wants to understand how this game is going to function. She's giving us a lot of answers for just kind of clearing up the picture and letting us know what we can look forward to. Because otherwise, you're all just we're guessing on what it's going to happen and how it's going to look. And there's not even much point to that. We can better argue about how this should look if we know what it's actually being planned to look like, you know what I mean? So Kissen continues here. She's talking about Troodon, talking about how Venom's going to work. This is a big deal because what we heard initially was that Troodon Venom would basically work like Legacy Bleed, where it is just subtracting health based on how much Venom is administered. So he's saying here the application alone or dosage, it does not rely on that alone. It is not a set it and forget it type of venom. So you can't just go up and bite something and be like a Komodo dragon where it's just gonna tire out and die from whatever the hell Komodo dragon venom does. But there's some kind of effect that she's alluding to that is increased by having it being re-administered over and over and over and over again. And the longer that you've had it in your system, the more the effect is amplified. So we don't know what that effect's going to be. It's hard for me to speculate on exactly what that could be because I don't want to assume it's going to be like Dilo where it's going to be like hallucinating and all that. Maybe it's like something to do with its stamina. Who knows? But, I mean, we've already kind of see that now, but maybe Troodon takes that a step further. Or something with the actions of a creature where like they're going insane and they start attacking and they're wasting stamina and they're hitting their teammates in their herd or pack or whatever. We really just need more information, but this is a great start. Also saying that Troodon's going to be benefiting from having a larger group when trying to take down larger prey. I think that's just alluding to the fact that because you only have so much venom in your system to use, it's good to have a bunch of Troodon that are going to all put their venom in there. So you're all kind of taking turns, You're going in there, you're applying your venom, you're being consistent, and if that creature can't deal with you, if it cannot land its hits and hit you and kill you, your persistence is going to pay off and you're going to have a huge payday. Really excited for Bapiausaurus. Bapi sounds like it's going to be a great, not a detraction, but a reprieve from the normal gameplay, kind of like how Hipsy or Dryo is today. You just had a really stressful encounter if you've been playing on your Arno for whatever reason, or Utah, and you had a really stressful encounter where maybe you lost, and you're like, I can't go back to it right now. I need something to cool off and just kind of, you know, just chill out. Bapi seems like it's providing that, and its mechanics and its movement just seems so fun. It's going to be so dynamic in the way that it interacts with the environment. I can't wait to see this in game, and I think it's going to be right up my alley. I don't know about you guys. And with the claws too, just giving it that little bit of flavor where if you know what you're doing, you're going to be able to fuck some people up. That's kind of cool. I can appreciate that. And also we're seeing some other mentions of other creatures being in production at this part, where it discusses Bapi, you know, your Cerrado galleys, your Herreras being in production soon. That's great. You hear those things coming in. I'm a big fan of Galley personally. I can't wait for it to take the place of Dryo, essentially, until Dryo can get the mechanics that it needs, because just having Dryo in the game right now is so stressful. I want something fast that I can just fly around and go from place to place. I hate staying in one place for a long time. I want to get a giant fucking group of galleys together. I want to recreate the fucking Jurassic Park scene. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want. So yeah, looking forward to that. Herrera, you know, Assassin's Creed in the Isle, great, perfect. Cerrado, the dump truck, the fucking meat wagon or whatever the hell Donnie said. Sounds great. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. And lastly, for this bit of information, the review at the end of this devlog, we get another promise. They're trying to commit to bringing you. As we all remember, they promised previously that they would bring it for 2021. I think we were all pretty disappointed to see that implementation was short-lived. They were taken back out of the game. Hopefully with this implementation, when they do come back, they'll have smoothed out some of the workings of it, because it was kind of clunky, let's be honest. There was only a flashlight to use. Maybe give us a pistol. Just give us a little pistol. Just a little pistol for fun. You know what I'm saying? I want to take some pop shots at people. I want to get those fuckers off the rocks. See those fuckers on the rocks? I'm taking pop shots at them. I'm shooting you. Get off that rock. What are you doing? Play the game. Stop it. Don't do it. Anyways. That concludes this video. I've gone over all the things that I want to go over. If you have any questions in the comments, if you want to, I'd love to have a discussion with you guys, see what you think about the devblog, what excites you most. Little Timmy T-Rex's players, if you guys are excited, I'm sure you guys are. It's, you know, Rex is getting some love. That's all you really care about. And happy for you. I'm happy for you, little guy. Maybe mom will finally get you a computer so you can play it instead of playing on her laptop. Anyways. Jokes aside, love you guys so much. The end of this video got a little informal, and that's fine. I kind of want it to be more organic. Shout out again to our editor Bukka for putting this together, assuming he's the one that I get to do this. If not, it's a little awkward. Anyways, if you want to see other stuff that I do, I'm on Twitch at Smeezel, same name. Check out some VODs I have posted. Hopefully in the future with this, I'll start bringing you guys some more content of just me playing the game. And if you want to see me playing live, again, check me out on Twitch. Come say hi, join my Discord server, hang out with us, post some funny pictures, tell us about your pets, show us your adventures, and tell us about you. I look forward to meeting you, and thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one, I guess, I suppose, and see you later, and goodbye. I'm shooting you.